Welcome back, everyone. LanceScurv here. You know, I was reading an article yesterday on TMZ about Bill Cosby's health issues and why he can't come to court. And there were two other dates that he was supposed to go to court, but he couldn't make it. And they were legitimate. And, down through the years, we think of Bill Cosby just like we think of other people who are celebrities, actors, stars, people in Hollywood. And I kind of noticed a pattern, which many of you who are listening to this notice it also. That whenever we have someone who's making lots of money, has lots of influence in the world of entertainment, whether it's music or acting, it appears as though when they're black, that once they hit a certain level of influence, power, and money, something happens to snatch it away. Let me just read part of this article on TMZ, and I have a few other things I want to speak about, but as you can see on the banner, it says double standards. And I think of Roman Polanski. In comparison, I'm going to talk about that, but let me read this article, a part of it, and I'll leave the link below in the comment section, what kind of stoked or inspired my thoughts to speak on this today. Bill Cosby was unable to attend his deposition scheduled for June 23rd and June 24th. And the reason, according to his lawyer, is because he is no longer in good health. In new legal docs obtained by TMZ, Cosby's lawyer, Jennifer Bongine, says her client could not proceed with his deposition due to his disabilities, age-related health issues, and related logistical challenges that could not be avoided. Bongine says Cosby is legally blind and suffers from a variety of health issues, including significant mobility limitations, which make appearing in person for court hearings far from his home difficult. Cosby's lawyer also says he must be accompanied by a male assistant at all times to ensure his safety and to help with basic needs like using the restroom. The deposition that was scheduled for June 23rd and 24th was canceled because Cosby's support was not available on the scheduled days, rendering the former actor unable to attend. Cosby just turned 89 a couple of days ago, and he continues to face legal troubles as his health deteriorates. Remember, he was denied a new trial back in May, and what would have been his second chance to defend himself against Donna Matzinger's rape allegations. Okay. Remember, what was it, like 10 years ago, 11 years ago, when this whole thing broke, when all of these women came out of the woodwork? What happened? You see, why I say double standards, because the bottom line is that when you have power and influence and money, substantial money, generational wealth to pass down in Hollywood, in politics, whatever it may be, you must be destroyed. Because black influence and power and wealth, generational wealth, is unacceptable, especially when you have a mind, a business mind, that you look beyond what you already have. You see, so many of celebrities that are black, they're just so happy to have a seat at the table. They're just so happy to just participate and get a little acknowledgement and to get the applause and see their names up in lights. But Bill Cosby was a little different because, as you well know, back in the early 90s, what was it, 92, 93, whenever it was, he wanted to buy NBC. Now, to me, the so-called elites, and I'm not calling them elite like they're better than anybody else, but that's what the general term is. The so-called elites said, you're overstepping your bounds, Negro. You can't do this. And Bill Cosby, he got together a few people who had lots of money, because I believe they wanted to sell NBC for $4 billion. Does it matter who buys it if they come up with the money? And I think at that time, Bill Cosby was worth $300 million. but that gave him a shot. And they know how he thought. They know how righteous he was as far as the public presentations that he wanted to put out there. The Cosby Show was very refreshing because it showed a black family that was upwardly mobile and progressive, right? Mother and father together, beautiful home, one parent a doctor. I forgot what the wife did or whatever, but mainstream media wasn't used to that. When you look at the blaxploitation movies from back in the 70s, and they displayed our people as pimps and hoes and thugs and no good and always looking to do some kind of illegal hustle and murder and hate each other and all. You know, it was a colorful period. There was humor in those movies, but it wasn't the full picture. It's too boring to put out the upright, intelligent black man and woman who are married and have their families and do the right thing and they pay their bills and they obey the law. No, they can't put that out there. So now we have life imitating art by the hijacked culture of hip hop music, of music. It's not about singing anymore. It's not about entertaining anymore. As an entertainer, as a woman who's singing, you have to have your breasts hanging out. You have to have short skirts, half naked, talking about things that should be kept in the bedroom. They never asked Diana Ross and the Supremes to do that. They never asked the different, you look at Gladys Knight and the Pips. Did you ever see her like that? Talking up under the clothes, whatever. All I'm saying is that Bill Cosby was a threat and he's being made to pay for it now. They want to drain him down and they are relentless. He is made to pay. And that's a signal just the same way on the slave plantations when they took the strongest, strongest so-called slave, which is an enslaved African, to make an example of him and buck break him in front of everybody. And what did that mean? One of them white slave masters had to actually bend over that slave, part his cheeks, and I'm not going to get too lewd here, and enter him from behind in a very painful way to emasculate him and give a warning to anybody else. If you want to buck up against me or you want to challenge my power, you're going to be brought down. And it hasn't stopped. Look at Michael Jackson, what they put him through with the accusations of what they said he did with children, right? And why do I say double standards? Double standards? Roman Polanski. Look at him. Let's talk about his situation for a second, right? Roman Polanski was arrested in 1977 after an encounter with a 13-year-old Samantha Geimer, then Samantha Gailey. According to court records, Polanski, then 43 years old, invited her for what was presented as a photo shoot. Then went to the home of actor Jack Nicholson, who was not there at the time. So Jack Nicholson had nothing to do with this, but it took place in his home. Polanski admitted giving her champagne and part of a Quaalude, which is a sedative that was legal by prescription at the time. But still, why are you giving a 13-year-old, whether it's legal or not, are you a doctor to administer this thing? Right? Court records in Samantha Geimer's testimony describe alcohol in Quaaludes, not tequila, because there's a lot of false reports that Roman Polanski gave her tequila. But champagne, alcohol, it's all the same. Drugs, whether it's legal or not, are you a doctor? I don't care if they say it's legal, right? Sexual intercourse occurred. A 43-year-old man and a 13-year-old child? And Geimer testified that she repeatedly said she did not want it to happen and asked him to stop. Polanski was originally charged with multiple felony offenses as part of a plea agreement. He pleaded guilty to one count of unlawful sexual intercourse with a minor, statutory rape. He acknowledged in court that he knew she was 13 years old. He's a pedophile. He knew this. He admitted to this. I'm not trying to compare two sins, but I'm going to speak about Bill Cosby in a second. And there's no comparison. And I'm bringing these 2 points together because I said double standards and I mean it, and you cannot prove me wrong. Now, this is Roman Polanski continuing. After spending 42 days in a diagnostic prison evaluation, he learned the judge was considering rejecting the plea arrangement and imposing a longer sentence. Before sentencing could occur, Polanski left the United States for France, where he has remained because France has not extradited him to the U.S. Right? And there's some other allegations that he has, and I'm not going to say it's too much to list, but let's go in summary. In the 1977 case, Polanski pleaded guilty to unlawful sexual intercourse with a 13-year-old. Court records describe champagne and quaaludes. He fled the U.S. before sentencing. In a world where a satellite from outer space can read the letters on a license plate, in a world where they say they captured and killed bin Laden after he was on the run, he is a man that we're not using age as an excuse to say, oh, he's old now. You do the crime, you do the time, you face the punishment. Roman Polanski is 92 years old right now, right? He was born on August 18th, 1933. Bill Cosby is 89. He was born on July 12th, 1937. They're in the same age group, 3 years difference, but their appearance is quite different. What's protecting Roman Polanski? Well, they don't extradite people from France to America, but he's still protected. Look at the whole Epstein controversy that's going on right now. Why is it like pulling teeth to see what's in those files? Because there are people who are alive that if it came out publicly all the way, trust and believe there would be an uproar to see the monsters in high places. Yes, now let's check on Bill Cosby. I wanted to clarify a few things because recently it's been said that he admitted to drugging women for the sex. Now we can split hairs legally, but this is what I pulled up. What many people are referring to is an old admission that became public in 2015 when a sealed 2005 deposition was unsealed. In that sworn testimony, Cosby acknowledged that he had obtained quaaludes, right? He obtained them with the intention of giving them to women he wanted to have sex with. He admitted giving quaaludes to at least one woman. However, Cosby maintained that the sexual encounters were consensual, and his attorneys argued that the deposition did not constitute an admission of sexual assault or of secretly drugging women without their knowledge or consent. Numerous women have alleged otherwise, but Cosby has consistently denied those allegations. So if you recently heard someone say that Bill Cosby just admitted to trying to use a substance on a woman, that's misleading. The admission itself is more than a decade old from a 2005 deposition that became public in 2015, not a new confession. If he did this, that's still wrong. But I'm going to say this. He claimed it was consensual. What were the ages of these women? And what is the age of the woman he is in court with now? What's the age? He says it's consensual. He said the women or the woman had full knowledge of it. A lot of people use drugs when they get high. They say it enhances the sex. I don't know about that. Sex is too delicious. I don't need to take anything. Something's wrong with you if you need that. But that's personal. That's neither here nor there. The bottom line is, it wasn't a 13-year-old girl. You were 43, Roman Polanski, when this happened. You're 92 years old now. So Were you doing this before and never got caught? If you can lay up, I'm asking a question now in general. If you're twisted and can give a child a Quaalude and champagne, and she still did not want this to happen, and you went through with it anyway while she was going against you, what kind of sick pleasure are you getting from dealing with a child? You got erect. You were turned on to this violation. What kind of monster are you? And they wanted to sentence you, and you fled the country. That's an admission of guilt. And so for all the people that you did movies with, all the movies you made, I believe you were an actor too. Nobody says anything? Nobody says anything? There's no outrage? Yes, and I know there was some outrage, but within the powerful people in the circles that you move in. Of course, France doesn't extradite criminals back to the U.S. for facing justice. But where's the moral outcry? Again, I believe he still has his wealth, his money. He's not being taxed in any kind of way. But with Bill Cosby, a man who wanted to buy NBC, I believe now he's being punished for it. If he did give a substance to someone who agreed to it, that's not a crime. And then again, I'm not just giving Bill Cosby a slap on the wrist, because if you're Bill Cosby, the great famous Bill Cosby, you shouldn't have any problem finding women to go to bed with. Yes, you're married. We understand that. We can come down on them for that. But let's put that aside. You're Bill Cosby. You got to be sneaky like that? When even if women wanted to be around you for your status, or maybe for a hookup, influence to get into a movie, or just to get in your pockets for the night, or for a time, or for a trip to the restaurant, to live the high life when they're with you and want to maintain something with you, you wouldn't have any problem. I'm quite sure there are a lot of women who want to accommodate you. Even if it is an older man, you're looking bug-eyed right now. Well, we all age, right? But I don't understand it. Why the Quaaludes? Is this something that many people did in Hollywood from back in the day? Could you imagine what Hugh Hefner, Cosby's old buddy, was doing in the Playboy Mansion? I remember the Playboy Mansion in Manhattan. I believe it was right off of Fifth Avenue in 60 or 61st Street, around in there somewhere. I remember that. I remember as a young boy, I knew Playboy magazine had naked women in there, so I'm thinking this is the Playboy Mansion. They must have naked women running around in there, and they did. And when the affluent had their parties, could you imagine? Those were the original Diddy parties. Who knows what they were doing up in there with their decadence? But nobody said a word, right? But when they want to come after you, the things that most do in Hollywood, I can't say who is doing and who is not, because as you well know, behind the Diddy parties, you found out how many celebrities were involved on different levels, leaked out. Most of it not rumors. Maybe we can't prove it, but he has a lot of videotapes to prove it, and a lot of stuff came out. I mean, heck, they even had TD Jakes hugged up. They had their clothes on with Diddy, and TD Jakes, he has rumors and actual things that are in his past, so you just don't know. So Bill Cosby, being around Hugh Hefner, running in the entertainment world, all kind of things going on, as a man, most likely you're going to slip. Maybe the temptation is too great. Maybe he was drunk off of his power as a black man, like, hey, I got far in this world. Who knows? But let's compare it. Yes, we must compare it to Roman Polanski, who entered into the body of a 13-year-old. A 13-year-old. You should be taking her to the amusement park. You should be taking her to get some ice cream. You should try to find out what she wanted to be in this life. And maybe with your money, finance that. But no, you weren't even thinking about that. You were looking at her in lust. And you made up in your mind, you're going to give her champagne and Quaaludes? I'm going to get that. That may not have been the exact language that he used, but you looking at a baby and lusting after a baby. Remember, I used to work in a jail and I used to work in a prison. And these people are monsters. But you know what? They can be quite charming. That's their facade. That's how they get next to you. That's how they gain your trust as a parent. See? Because they would never do that. The way they carry themselves, so decent. And even when they were in protective custody in the jail that I worked in, and they would come to the glass, fiberglass. It wasn't just bars, it was fiberglass. And they would call me for something. They may have wanted me to check their account to see how much money that they had, to see how much commissary they can order. Or they may want to make sure that their appointment with the doctor or the nurse went through, right? Oh, excuse me, Officer Scurvin, I don't want to bother you, but I would like to request some information from you. How was your day today? As opposed to the other inmates in the other sections who are cussing and damning. But you know what? They wouldn't touch a baby. They wouldn't touch a child. They might have robbed a bank. They might have shot the dude that was in his house screwing his wife. Crime of passion. They might have had all kind of schemes to make money. They could have been a car thief. They could have been a person who did carjacking or breaking in people's houses. But people would look at them and say, oh, they're scary, they're monsters. But these polite acting individuals, famous people like Roman Polanski, to do something like that. And when you're like that, I'm going to tell you, that wasn't the first time. There had to be lots of other women, or babies rather, because she's a female, she's a girl. There wasn't a woman, right? Even when I see women who are 19 or 20 years old, I'm 63 years old. What would it look like if I'm trying to get with them? What kind of conversation? What kind of thing in common? I don't understand it. Roman Polanski, I'm quite sure he could have gotten with women of his age, even if they were a little younger. He's 43. If he had somebody 28 or 30, okay, you got money. She's probably milking you for money or whatever have you. She's probably looking to get into some kind of position in the entertainment world, those circles. We can't knock it. She's a grown woman. She knows what she's doing. As they say, your brain is not fully developed until 25 years old. It doesn't mean you can't make a decision. It doesn't mean that if you're 22, you're immature and don't know anything. Maybe your brain is developed a little earlier than most, but they say at 25. So you have emotions, but a 13-year-old kid? Huh? Let me tell you something. In life, I've had women hit on me who were much younger than me. Okay, Roman Polanski was 43. Let's take me going back to my age of 43. There might have been a young lady who was 18 or 19 hitting on me. For whatever reason, some young girls like older men. And I'm thinking, like, nothing happened, but I'm playing a numbers game. Like, okay, let's just say you were 23 and I was 43. I'm thinking, well, when I was 33, you were 13. When I was 23, you were 3. How does that match up? Right? 13 years old, you fled the country. Bill Cosby if he was dealing with 1 million women, they were all of age. Nobody said that they were underage. You wanted to buy NBC, and you will forever be made an example and professionally buck-broken. Not the same way that they did it the slave days. I'm not saying that. But this is the equivalent for a man who has so much influence and so much power and who could make so much change in the world from positioning himself and not just accepting to be, oh, I'm a famous actor. Oh, I got a couple of movies. I'm happy with the crumbs that I have, while the Hollywood bigwigs and the people behind the entertainment industry that pull strings that you'll never see, they don't want to have a black man move into that elite position. And again, this is why they did Michael Jackson the way that he did, for him to either partially or completely own Sony. I don't know the percentage, and to have the rights to the Beatles music. Oh my God, we can't have Michael Jackson have this influence and power and to continue to make money and have generational wealth. And he has influence that we must destroy because it can be too powerful. And he'll thumb his nose at us and expose us. Imagine that. Because look at it now. Look at the love that Michael Jackson still gets. They couldn't tear it down. First, they want to get at your reputation. Oh, he was with these young boys up in his house and all of this and all that. Michael Jackson grew up with no childhood. That was a way of him having some type of childhood through the children that were around him. And some of the parents wanted to milk that. Well, say he did this and say he did that. And try to keep him trying to defend himself to drain his money. But certain things you can't stop. But an 89-year-old Bill Cosby, who may have given a woman a substance that she knew maybe it enhances the sex act. I don't know. Anybody out there know of it? Some medical professional? Let me know in the comments section. I don't know about these things because I never got down like that. And after dealing with the death of his son, Ennis, Bill Cosby, January 16th, 1997, on Interstate 405 in Los Angeles, he was shot in the head by an 18-year-old Mikhail Markasev in a failed robbery attempt. And the funny thing, you know, his son was 27 years old, right? And at the time that this happened, Bill Cosby, I believe, was in some studio in Astoria, Queens, creating another episode or maybe some kind of episode. You know how sometimes they bring the characters back, but it was something to do with the Cosby Show, which I believe at that time was over for a while. And that's where he got the call. Could you imagine? You doing your thing in your profession, and you get a call that your son was shot in the head. And I don't know if the person got any money or not, but Ennis Cosby, his son, still was wearing the Rolex watch when he was on his back or front or whatever. When he was on the ground, there was blood everywhere. And the funny thing, the dude who killed him got life in prison. And after time, he felt so guilty, he said, listen, I want to show that I'm sorry for this by refusing any parole. So I don't want anything, right? I don't want that. I don't want any appeals or anything. I'm admitting to this. Because at first he said he didn't do it. Still, he did it. You got to watch your back in this world. Whether it's somebody who can shoot you in the head, take your money, somebody who can come after you, character assassinate you, try to bring you down because you're going too high. What's going on in the world? But I know one thing, true Black iconic power with generational wealth and worldwide influence with a great reputation is not acceptable because it's too much power. It's too much power. Yet, as old as Roman Polanski is, I don't know if he's somewhere in a wheelchair, somewhere looking out the window, old and whatever, he ran for something that he actually did. Something that he actually did. Go figure. In this world, how does that work out? That's why I always try to stress to the younger folks out here, it doesn't mean you have to be paranoid looking over your shoulder. Just know how the true rules of this world work. Be aware of it and move accordingly. Shoot for the stars. Become the best person that you can be. Be the best. Conquer all. But understand that possibly there'll be somebody watching you who wants to bring you down. So make sure you keep your ascension in this world airtight, your money airtight. You live in a way that nobody can bring you down and lie on you. Let me tell you something. I'm a little guy as far as those worlds are concerned. And I've had things happen to me on social media that blew my mind. I'm like, really? I'm that much of a threat? But here's a little tip. Whenever you go to the ATM, don't toss that receipt of the transaction away. Whenever you go to the supermarket, don't throw away that receipt. Whenever you go somewhere and you see a camera or somebody's ring cameras on, look at it. Notate the time. Build a paper trail, a righteous alibi. So if anybody comes at you, and this is for everybody, but especially the black men who are really the target out here, watch how you step. Because there's some evil people out here in the world. There are evil organizations. There are evil cults. There are evil brotherhoods that if you attain power without them, they will be envious of you. And if you don't join into their mess, it's their goal to bring you down. Don't say I didn't warn you. It's something to think about. Anyway, I hope these words were enlightening to you. I hope you understand where I'm coming from. As always, I'm glad that you're here with me. LanceScurv out. On to the next one. Leave your comments below and go and hit LanceScurvX.com. Sign up with your email so we can continue having these dialogues without the interference of the social media hierarchies that don't like truth. Peace.